The courtroom was packed that morning, whispers bouncing off the cold marble walls as the bailiff called out, "Case number 4721, the state versus Daniel Cross." The door creaked open, and a man in a faded suit stepped forward. His posture was straight, his eyes weary yet strong. You could tell, just by looking at him, that this wasn't just any man. This was someone who had carried burdens most couldn't imagine. The crowd didn't know it yet, but before the hour was over, they would all be holding their breath in silence. Daniel Cross, a single father and decorated Army veteran, stood accused of assaulting a wealthy man outside a diner. The prosecution painted him as a violent, unstable veteran, a man who couldn't control his temper. But those who truly knew Daniel saw something else, a man who had fought for his country, sacrificed everything, and was now fighting just to protect his little boy. As Daniel stood at the defendant's table, his hands trembled slightly. Not out of fear for himself, but for his son, Ethan, who sat quietly in the back row clutching a worn photograph of his dad in uniform. That photo was all Ethan had left of a world where his father was seen as a hero, not a criminal. The judge entered, an older woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for fairness. "Judge Monroe presiding," the bailiff announced. Everyone rose. But as the judge looked over her docket and then to the defendant, something strange happened. Her eyes froze on the name. She read it again, softly, "Daniel Cross." For a brief second, the courtroom went still. The judge's hand trembled just slightly as she adjusted her glasses. "Please approach the bench, Mr. Cross," she said, her tone suddenly gentler. Daniel hesitated, confused, but stepped forward. The murmurs in the gallery grew louder. The prosecutor frowned, wondering what was happening. When Daniel reached her, Judge Monroe leaned forward, studying his face as though searching for something buried deep in her memory. "Sergeant Daniel Cross, 3rd Infantry Division," she asked quietly. Daniel blinked, stunned. "Yes, ma'am," he said slowly. "How do you?" But before he could finish, the judge leaned back in her chair, her eyes glistening. "You saved my brother," she whispered. "Kandahar, 2010. He never forgot your name." The entire courtroom fell into stunned silence. The prosecutor looked confused, the crowd frozen in disbelief. Daniel's lips parted slightly, the memory flooding back, the firefight, the explosion, the frantic effort to drag a wounded soldier to safety. "Your brother was Corporal James Monroe," Daniel murmured, voice breaking. "He was one of the bravest men I ever met." Judge Monroe nodded, eyes misty. "He passed 2 years ago," she said softly, "but he spoke of you until the day he died." You could hear a pin drop. Ethan looked at his dad, confusion and pride written across his small face. The judge composed herself, but her tone had changed completely. "This court will proceed fairly," she said firmly. "But let it be known, this man is a veteran who once risked everything for others." The prosecutor tried to recover, insisting that no amount of heroism excuses violence. But as witnesses took the stand, the truth began to unravel. The man Daniel had supposedly assaulted was a local businessman, and the evidence showed he had struck first after harassing Ethan at the diner. Daniel had only defended his son. Surveillance footage, dismissed earlier by the prosecution, clearly showed the businessman grabbing Ethan's arm. The crowd gasped as the clip played. Daniel lowered his head, tears welling up as his son smiled through his own. The judge sighed, visibly moved. "This court finds the defendant not guilty," she declared. The words hit like thunder. The courtroom erupted in applause, though Judge Monroe quickly silenced them with her gavel. "Order. Order in the court," she said with a faint smile. When the session ended, Judge Monroe called Daniel forward once more. "Sergeant," she said quietly, "you once gave my family a second chance. Today, I was honored to give yours back to you." Daniel's voice cracked as he replied, "Ma'am, I never expected anything in return. I just wanted my son to grow up knowing that doing the right thing still means something." The judge nodded, her voice soft. "Then you've already succeeded, Mr. Cross." Outside, reporters swarmed as Daniel exited the courthouse holding Ethan's hand. But he didn't stop to talk. He just looked up at the sky, the same sky he'd seen in foreign lands where he fought for freedom, and whispered, "We made it, kid." Ethan squeezed his hand. "Dad," he said shyly, "were you really a hero?" Daniel smiled, tears glinting in his eyes. "No, son," he said. "Real heroes don't wear capes or sit on thrones. They just keep standing when life knocks them down. The story of Daniel Cross spread across the news within hours. The video of his courtroom victory went viral. Millions watched as a humble veteran cleared his name and showed the world that courage and honor never fade. Comments poured in, thanking him for his service, admiring his strength as a father. And as the final scene faded out, the message on the screen read, "Never judge a man until you know his story. Respect those who've fought battles you'll never see. And always stand up for what's right, even when the world stands against you." If this story touched your heart, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, because somewhere out there, another hero like Daniel Cross is still fighting his silent war. And your voice might just be the one that helps them win it.